We got 6:30. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. First up is public comments, and then we've got at least one person that wants to speak tonight. Yep.
It's okay.
Unless Jerry wants to race you, I don't.
All right. Appreciate it. What's up? I'll introduce myself. I have a couple of things to say.
And you have to basically eat it.
Okay, I can do that too.
You might have to just take it off.
I can do that too. Actually, I can.
Pull it out of there.
Tell you what. Say 5 words. I think I'm unscrewing from the bottom. Somebody wailed on it. All right.
Just take it out of the nightstand.
That should be enough introduction for me. It's like, my name is Pete Mahegan. I'm at 145 Pembroke Street resident, and I'm also state rep, and I have a couple of things I want to say to the board tonight. First, thank you from the bottom of my heart for everything, for all your trust and faith that you guys have put in me over 37 years. And the gratitude I have for this last 5 months, I needed to express publicly, because you guys gave me another gift that made it really hard to become state rep. So I'm blaming you all for that. The best kids come to the school, as always. And I'm actually still making lesson plans so that the kids are not bereft. And I'm here to encourage you in your decisions tonight for certain reasons that are personal. Second, I want you to know that I've been placed on the Education Funding Committee, and I'm your neighbor. So please, if you have questions, comments, anything at all, you'll get an answer immediately if you direct them to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. And we usually don't say much during public comment, but I want to thank you on a personal note. French has been my son's favorite class this year. I don't think my son has ever had a favorite class before, so that's saying something. He's going to miss you.
My wife and I agree that your kids are amazing.
I appreciate
Just so you know, we talked about you today. So,
Jerry, do you have public comment or no?
Yeah, since I bothered to come rather than watching it on live stream. My name is Jerry Fleury. I live at 21 Kimball Street, and for the record, I'm also the vice chair of the Pembroke Budget Committee. I'm here to speak because I'm concerned that I want to be sure that the school board understands some of my personal concerns about the way the budgets are constructed. We're looking at your draft budget for a $2 million increase. And the general feel that the budget committee is that would be a stretch. It would be $3.18 on the tax rate, per thousand. And that equates to $1,000 a year increase in property tax, which may be too high. But my basic concern is that there are funds that, in my personal opinion, are not being well utilized. There have been times in the past when the school district had to temporarily suspend programs. I'm thinking about things like music, and it was difficult to get them back in, but the entire community knew that when times were tough, something had to be cut. The one area that I'm concerned about, and I reported it to you as CIP chair when CIP did its work this year, is that you've got plans to rebuild the track to the tune of $450,000. I wouldn't want to be the one to say, we can't afford to put a teacher at the front of the classroom, but we can pave 400 yards of asphalt out in the field with that money. I think that you may want to reflect upon whether the best use of those funds is paving a track or rebuilding a track or adding staffing. You could always go back and rebuild a track at a later date. And I think that psychologically, it would send a message to the voters in Pembroke that you're serious about looking at alternatives. Another area that you might do this, we're going no place with the construction of renovations at the Hill Street. And you've got $169,000 sitting in a capital reserve fund that you could utilize for something else. you ought to be thinking, at least thinking about drafting warrant articles to free up those funds. Another sign to the voters that we're serious about this, we're in trouble, we need the money in order to carry out curriculum. This is one way that we could get it short term. And then just in the review of the budget, some of the numbers look a little arbitrary. There are things where you were not funded in the current year and you want to be funded in the future. I think if some of those could be halved, don't try to put the whole thing back, put back half of it. And some of those items I think would work. So those are just my suggestions on what you might do in a constructive way to get a budget that will be more acceptable to the general public, especially to the voters. I don't think you want another situation like you had last year. You may recall that the recommendation of the budget committee was to cut 300,000, and the voters took 3 million. It isn't to say that that can't happen again to some degree. And one way that you might mitigate that is to really look hard at the money that you've got in capital reserves and how you might free those up to use them in your operating budget in the future. Thank you.
Thanks, Jerry. Appreciate it. It's safe to say we can move on since that was all of our public. Agenda review, anybody have anything?
This is what we said, like, you know, this
And I just wanted to add
stuff you and us.
kind of a game plan for our public meeting that's coming up in a few weeks. I know we have another board meeting between now and then, but I feel like we need to start kind of game planning on that.
Okay. I've got a couple of things. So these are, I think they're all going to be brief, but Sandy, I'm going to add a 7B for quick, I don't know, statement about March 8th. 7C, which is going to be a brief discussion about strategic plan. And then we'll do a 7D to discuss the January 28th meeting. And we do have non-public tonight, right?
Yes.
Anything else, anybody?
Since I'm on that committee.
All right, then we've got some minutes from the 3rd and the 17th of December.
First session.
Make a motion to approve the minutes from December 3rd and December 17th, 2024.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, corrections, concerns? Then all in favor of approving the minutes from December 3rd and December 17th, 2024, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Fantastic. All right, board reports. They're not listed, so I'm going to forget stuff, but we'll start with Campbell anyway, since we've got it.
Yeah,
I like you guys.
so as far as student senate and class government work over the last few weeks, it's mostly been in the way of winter carnival planning. That's sort of the big event this time of the year. Senate specifically has worked mostly in winter carnival committee, so there aren't a whole lot of updates as far as different events to give. But I will say, winter carnival is part of our continued and broader efforts to address a lack of school spirit among the student populace. Part of that was we did mandate class officer senator participation in Spirit Week, and that seemed to help a little bit. We saw generally the senators and the officers participating, even if we didn't necessarily see a huge increase in participation among the general student body, but we obviously hope that will be the end result. And I think the other big thing as far as winter carnival goes is that the officers, the class officers from each grade will be having discussions with their whole grade in the auditorium next week. That's mostly to increase school spirit for carnival and get people excited. Instead of today, we talked about making promotional materials, so videos, that sort of thing. And then also, the officers won't touch on this too extensively because it's not entirely our place, but just making sure, given last year's events at Winter Carnival, that people understand the rules and expectations, and that if someone believes that they can't necessarily go to Winter Carnival without having a probably for others, maybe it's best for them to remain at home. Obviously, we're not going to deliver that in the same kind of way to students, but that's the general idea.
Cool, thank you. Is there anything that we can do for you?
Not at this time. Thank you.
Any questions for Campbell? Awesome, thanks for being here, appreciate it, and as always, you're free to stay or free to go. I know that you're a busy guy, so.
Thank you.
All right, I guess we'll move to Edmund, and we'll start with Katie in the middle for once.
Not a ton has happened since the last board meeting. We've had a vacation in there. But we had our parent-teacher conferences, mid-December. Those seemed to go very well. I think most of our teachers were fully booked, as far as their time slots. So there were, had some great, meetings and conversations, one-on-one or, one-on-two with parents. So we were happy to see the turnout and happy to have those conversations with those parents. We hold a Panther Pride Assembly at the end of every month where we recognize our students of the month. Each grade level is recognizing students that have gone above and beyond according to our core values. And I've had actually several kids approach me about adding teachers into that mix. So I'm hoping to have some more conversations with them and how we can work in, teachers to our Panther Pride assemblies as well. It's Spirit Week leading up to winter break, fairly successful. I think, we are doing pretty well with the student engagement. And I would say our, ugly sweater day was probably the most popular, and kids had a lot of fun with that. And then I think the whole building, but probably specifically me, is very much looking forward to Danielle starting on Monday. We're excited to have her on board and happy to have her with us starting Monday.
Thank you. Any questions about TRS? Oh, great, thanks. Go to Wendy, because she's got a mic.
Similar, not a lot has happened. There's a couple of things that are upcoming. We have our curriculum night, which was our replacement for the open house. So we had, I think it was like 2 years ago, we had started, I think I shared with this, we had put in a meet and greet before school starts to help with the anxiety that a lot of kiddos and families were facing and wanting tours and stuff like that. So it actually is pretty much the same as open house. And then we were back just a couple weeks later doing the same thing. So what the staff has worked on is a way of sharing with families specifically around the curriculum, the learning environment. So what it's like now as a learner and how things might look a little different than were in the past have been. So they're working, they've put together activities that students and parents will go through with together those nights. So we have January, I think it's the 15th and 16th. Yep, kinder and fourth will be from 5:30 to 6 on the 15th, and then first, second, and third will be on the 16th. I think I said that. Just same parking is something that we can't accommodate everybody all on one. So we're excited for this. One thing that we will do is we're going to send out like a feedback form to parents because we want to start kind of gaining feedback on what their thoughts were on the night, if it was helpful. We have some goals in mind that we're hoping to achieve, and through that feedback will help us refine it year to year. So we have that upcoming. We also had our parent conferences. We do the full day and a half, which is something that we very much appreciate. This year in particular, over the summer and the beginning of the year, we've revamped our report cards and competencies pretty significantly. The whole goal is report cards is a communication tool between teachers and parents, and we just found like it wasn't really being helpful. And so we've done a lot of work on our grading practices, our competencies, and so far the feedback we got was that it was, the wording of it was a little bit more user-friendly, and it really helps gain a picture and understanding of that. So we're excited about that. And then upcoming, we have our mid-year benchmarking, which is something, so we assess more formally 3 times a year. And we have our mid-year coming up. We use that kind of as a way of looking at how the students are responding to our instruction. And we've had 3 specific things that we've been focusing on in literacy. It's our wit and wisdom, and then a heavy focus on the phonics portion of things as well. And those 2 things, the comprehension, and then our math practices. So we saw a lot of growth last year. It was really amazing. And we're keeping tabs on that. And from that information, we then work to meet the needs of our individual students. So that's a big part coming up for us.
Questions? It's getting off easy tonight. What? Academy.
Okay, good evening, everyone. I want to start by highlighting our Toys for Tots game that we had in December. That was put together as a National Honor Society community service project by one of our seniors. And in that, it was to raise awareness and promote the Toys for Tots charity. There was a volleyball competition, and any student who participated in that had to also donate a toy towards that cause in order to help with that. And that went very well. In a similar vein, we are going to have a school assembly at the end of the month for one of our unified basketball games. So last year, we were fortunate enough to be able to schedule one of our unified basketball games during the season at the end of the school day, and that went very well. And we were able to plan that again this year with MV. So that will be, just a highlight. That was a really an important experience, I think, for a lot of students and staff who just really got a lot out of that and were able to be supportive and cheer on our unified basketball team. With that, winter sports are well on their way. We obviously have a game tonight. We had our capital area basketball tournament over the break. The boys were fortunate enough to win that. The girls came in 4th in that competition. Just prior to break, we had our holiday concert, and I think students and staff and families were pleased with how that went. The musicianship was very good. And we are still plugging away at NEASC. We actually have a meeting tomorrow night. If you remember, one of the kind of priority areas that NEASC identified was facilitating the development of a parent organization similar to the ones that all of our sending schools have. And there is the first meeting for that tomorrow. So that's kind of an important step. That's all I have.
All right, questions for Dan?
I just have one. The parent organization, is that made up of the surrounding towns, or is it's just Pembroke?
No, that is all of any parent of a student who goes to PA would be able to, participate in that. There was an initial survey that went out, I believe, 2 months ago, just to kind of generate an idea of what kind of interest is out there. The feedback from that was that there was enough interest to kind of move forward with this. So an email went out, I believe it was just before break, and that was, we were going to have a meeting, and if you're interested in that, just to kind of get a sense of how many people we should anticipate, fill out this very brief survey. And so I believe there may be 10 or so that are coming to that tomorrow.
It's good. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Others? Okay, thanks all. Appreciate the information. Let's see, we had a facilities report in the drive. I don't know if you guys saw it. It was fairly brief, but I know that they were hard at work over the break, making the facilities pretty again when the kids come back. Anybody have any questions about that for Patty? Okay, is there anything for exec board?
Exec board has not met since we had board meeting last, but I do have a little bit of an update. We currently have 2 candidates for superintendent. So those are, as of right now, that's where we're at. And we have another week and almost 2 weeks, I guess, for more applications to come in. That's all we
Thank
got.
you. And last but not least, we got Gene and NBC. We know the presentation happened, so further stuff to talk about.
Yeah, so this past Thursday, Amber Wheeler and Patty were in to present the budget to the NBC, and that went pretty well. I was gonna mention what Jerry had said, but Jerry has spoken his piece and informed us what I was gonna say. But, yeah, there are concerns in the budget committee concerning the budget this year, and so that's primarily where we're at right now. On Thursday, Jess will be in to make a presentation to the NBC concerning special ed, how it impacts the budget, so on and so forth. So that's about it.
Okay, questions for Gene?
It's not a question, but it's just a statement. I have to commend Patty and Dan and Amber and whoever else worked on all those questions that were thrown at them last minute and all those answers that were available within 3 or 4 minutes, 3 or 4 hours, whatever it was of those questions being asked. That was, I think you surprised the budget committee with how quickly you got them the answers that they were asking, or the answers to the questions they were asking.
Great. Gene, if I could make an ask, could you send an email to the select board? Just making sure that they're aware that this week will involve a discussion of special education. I'm not sure where they're at right now, but I know last year there was much discussion about the secret special ed stuff, and I think Jess does a really good job of explaining that. So I'd like to make sure that they're aware that that's going to happen in case they have concerns.
Got it.
Did I hit them all? Is that all the committees?
Yeah,
Cool. All right, consent agenda, we've got a couple of things. Field trip first.
So this is kind of an annual thing at this point, but again, this year we have a student who was fortunate enough to be named to All-State, and as part of that invitation, there's an expectation that they stay, even though it's just in Concord, given the schedule for rehearsing and performing, the expectation is that they stay in a hotel for that, and they have to have a school official, in this case it will be Mrs. Morehouse, who also has to stay on the premises too. So this is a request for that essentially overnight field trip to occur.
Yeah, we've seen this one a lot of times. Anybody have any questions or clarifications? All right, is there a motion? Motion to approve? Is there a second? Last call for questions. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Great. Thanks and congratulations to Jackson. And we've got a request for fund transfer also, right?
Yes, please. So as you know, this year is our reaccreditation year for EAS. We have 2 veteran staff members who actually happen to also be community members who are our co-chairs for that steering committee. That represents a lot of work. And with that, their counterparts in other schools are compensated for that. And I'd like to do the same this year. So looking at available budget lines, I was able to find a curriculum development line that we haven't accessed yet. And I'd like to request a transfer for that so that we can give them a stipend for the work that they do this year.
That was my question. I saw the number, but I didn't have time to go look up the, if that's what the line was, but thanks. Questions? I know this is one of the things that they put a lot of hours into, so. All right. Any questions or motion? Great, there's second?
Second.
Last call for questions, comments? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay, the warrant is first up.
We received the warrant edits back from Dean and there were hardly any. I don't know if you had a chance to look at those, but he added the word expenditure, he added the word dollars, he added the word additional taxation. And I think that was actually all, that was it. Everything else he said looked good. So, I don't know if you just want to you already taken all your votes, but I didn't want to pass on a final copy until you said, yes, we looked at his edits and we're okay with it.
Right, yep, no, I have, they look good to me, I've got a question for Jerry if he wants to take one.
The budget committee have a copy of that warrant?
Yeah, we'll have it for Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, and so my question is, this is a change, I know there's always been a lot of discussion around the no amount to be raised from taxation and the things that come from surplus. And it looks like the attorney recommended changing it this year to no amount to be raised from additional taxation. Which I think sort of clarifies a bit, but do you anticipate any qualms from the budget committee on that?
Everybody understands how the process works. You're really not impacting the tax rate anytime that you appropriate from surplus. That's essentially what's happening.
Good, and hopefully that word does help. There are some people that, we have this discussion every year, so hopefully it's helpful. Anybody else have any questions looking through that? Okay. And we're done, but we don't need to do anything with this, right?
All the votes were taken, you're good. And I did send Mark the dollar value so he could calculate his sheet. Have that ready, and then I'll email us for Thursday.
Awesome. Progress. Okay, any other questions around the warrant before we move on? All right, 7B was just this is really nothing. I just realized today when I was talking to Jean that I am unable to attend March 8th. So, and people can think about that. I don't know what would be acceptable to the moderator. I don't know if one of you is comfortable giving the presentation that night. Nice thing is with these other presentations that we have planned, we'll have a couple of sort of run-throughs. If somebody's comfortable doing that, that's great. If Tom would be okay with it, I'd be happy to record something ahead of time, and then somebody could just be there to answer questions. I am not sure about my flight schedules and everything yet, so I would offer to Zoom in, but I'm not sure that's feasible. But I just realized it today, so I just wanted to let you all know so that people can start thinking about how they want to handle that. And if anybody has brilliant ideas or wants to step forward, let me know. And if they're sort of out of the box ideas, I will communicate with the moderator and make sure that he's okay with anything that we come up with. So that's it. Just want to throw that out there.
I don't mind reading something, but would you, your slideshow you normally do and record yourself on the slideshow, like we all have to do for our projects?
Yeah, I can absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely can do so. We just sort of need to agree, I guess, think about it. Next meeting, we'll have a little bit more discussion, but I mean, that was the first thing that popped into my head.
Yeah.
Was
You
just
can
do the slides. And,
password thing and then your face will be right there.
yeah. Or even if it's my voice without my face, that might get us further anyway. I don't think my face is doing us any favors, but yeah, I can definitely do that if that's what people want to do. Not a problem. I apologize for missing that. I feel bad about it, but it's not really a negotiable. All right, so Melanie reached out this morning and has some strategic plan stuff. I think that we had agreed to do this on the second meeting, but we wanted to touch base on it so that people can see what she's got. I think she sent it out to everybody earlier today. And then I think we decided next meeting when we talk a little bit more in depth, we're aimed at facilities. So start wrapping your head around that a little bit. But I'll let Melanie just show us what she's got.
I saw it on the agenda, so I worked on it over the weekend, and then I saw today it was off the agenda, so I was like, oops. So that was just what I came up with from what we did last meeting on communication. if we can wordsmith it, if you guys have edits that you know right now, it is a draft, and then facilities will be the next thing that we do with the next one. We don't have our mission statement yet, so I left that blank, but you can kind of see how it's starting to form into a plan. For communication, I just took all of our ideas that we typed up last time and came up with a goal that the Pembroke School Board will deliver clear, timely, concise, and accessible information to all stakeholders, staff, parents, students, and the Pembroke community through diverse communication channels at least quarterly. I know that's a heavy burden. I don't know if you want to say quarterly, try to meeting it, bring it back in. Outcome is usually pretty brief when you do these, and the outcome would be responsive, timely, and effective communication that will foster a well-informed and engaged community. So open to any words within.
Not that I want to add another thing to the list of comments, but I'm wondering about throwing the word accurate in there, just to be
Which, let me know.
so clear, timely, concise. I think it's assumed that we would strive to be accurate, but. And then I just had a question in mind,
Is the goal or the outcome?
the goal.
Where?
So Pembroke School Board will deliver clear, timely, concise, accurate, and accessible, or I don't care where it goes in the list. And then my question was, and again, because I've not been through the strategic planning process, do we define in here sort of the how, or is that more of like a
That's
1-year goal type of thing?
It's usually your working plan. Once you've developed a strategic plan, it goes out to all your stakeholders, our Facebook, our website, so that everybody can see it. Then you kind of like break it down into a working thing that would clearly show, okay, the principals are responsible for this. The vice chair of the school board must do a blurb, school board update that goes to the school newsletters. That's your working plan, internal document. This is like external strategic. That make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Well, I think, hello, quarterly sounds fine. I wouldn't want to not put something in.
Yeah,
So,
but usually, it's
yeah.
usually like a timeline or
Okay,
something
Yeah,
concrete.
I would anticipate,
Yeah.
hopefully we would more than meet that.
Yeah.
But as a benchmark, at least to say, we're gonna do this.
Sometimes you'll see goals that say like quarterly, monthly, or by the end of the school year, so I just wanted to get started for me.
Cool. Do you have any other questions for us, or just think about facilities for next meeting?
Basically, just do the same thing for facilities for our next meeting. Think about, you can look through your emails from Josh and stuff like that. When you think about our Hill School project thing. And you just think what we did last time, what's working really well, what do we know are our issues, and what are some ideas, and then we'll just jot them all down and we'll do the same priority for facilities.
Okay. Thank you very much for putting this together.
Andy, can we just back up to March for just a second?
Sure.
I know this is a question that gets asked every year of us, but the intention of school board members being at voting and having, I know we've gotten mixed answers, and then when we go to vote, people corner us and say, why aren't you guys here? So I'm just wondering if we can have a discussion, if we want to do shifts, if we can, I mean, because the hard thing is Jean and I technically, I think, are the only ones that are allowed to be inside, sitting there at the table, because the three of them are on the,
Right.
but I don't know.
If 3 of us are up, we can't really possibly get a quorum, can we? Give me.
You can be fine, right here.
Give me just 1 second. I reached out to Barrett about this. Okay, so I'll just read. Will Phillips, School Board Association lawyer, responded. So this isn't too long. I'll read it. We can sort of chew on it and see what we think. But and just for reference, this was the same assertion was made about the November election.
Yes.
So, and I didn't think that was right, so there's some reference to that in here. So he said, hello, Andy, there is a requirement, and then in parentheses, strained interpretation though it may be, that school board members be in attendance at all times during any election or official ballot voting that directly involves the school district. i.e. annual meeting or any special meeting. We have not seen any information from the SOS or the AG that suggests the requirement applies to town or general elections / ballot day. Unofficial guidance from the Secretary of State suggests that only a quorum is required to be present at all times. Notwithstanding the attendance requirement, RSA 671:28-A, reprinted below, allows any school board member to appoint a person as a school board member pro tem for the sole purpose of fulfilling the school board member's election day duties. If the school board member does not make the appointment, then the moderator may do so. The person appointed as the pro tem must, 1, be a registered voter of the district, and 2, take the oath of office. Practically speaking, the actual board member or moderator may appoint any one of the host of election volunteers as a pro tem member. In almost all instances, school board member duties on election day are assigned by the moderator, town moderator if election is conducted in conjunction with the town, and district moderator if it's conducted by the district. Hope this helps, Will Phillips. So there is something that says we need to be there. There's also something that says if we're not, Tom can appoint anybody in the room pretty much as a school board member for the day. And so, I mean, if people are available, I'm certainly not going to sit here and ask anybody to take their PTO and use it for that day, because there is an alternative. And from what I gathered from Will and Barrett, that's what people do. Like, there's very few school boards that actually show up and sit there all day, even at quorum. The moderator appoints people so that they're in line with the RSA and they go about their right. That said, if you've, I know some employers give civic time. If you can take the day off, want to take the day off and be there, I think it's a good idea. Not sure that I can, so. But I don't know. Mr. Rob. Yeah. Didn't have him quite keep Jerry company. He's always there. So, yeah, I don't know.
No, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we are, we're not gonna get cornered again saying, well, why isn't the school board here? So it's 4 days before tax deadline for me, so I probably couldn't spend the entire day there, because, I might not be able to connect to work. But, I could do a few hours just as a face for the school board, and maybe, we could have some things there about the budget if need be. But I can't commit to spending the whole day.
I guess everybody just, think about it. We've got a while. I don't think that we need a whole lot of advance notice, but maybe 2 weeks ahead of time, if I can let Tom know how many of us he can expect, so that he knows that day he needs to appoint somebody or whatever, just to, do him the courtesy of a heads up. So, our second February meeting, maybe we'll take a straw poll, see who can be there, who plans to be there, yada, yada. And then I can get that information to Tom so that he can be prepared. Thanks for bringing that up. It's a good point.
You can count on that right now.
Okay. Great. Look at that, we just cleared it up, anyway.
Well, the issue is with you, that you're running. So I don't know. We
Yeah, sure.
can clarify.
Yeah, I don't think it matters. They can't help count ballots.
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't count ballots, and
You
you can't bring pass stuff out to people, but you can
Right.
help if you're needed in there.
Yeah, you gotta leave your signs up for them.
That's right. I'm not gonna freeze outside all day.
Yeah, yeah, being inside sounds better. That's a good point too. Cool, okay. So then Carrie wanted to add a discussion about meetings. So the one thing I will say before we get started on that is I gotta get that Excel so I can start messing with it, Patty.
Are you getting it?
I don't, frankly, haven't seen it yet. So that's.
Forwarded to you right now.
Oh, you have it? Oh, awesome, okay. Maybe I missed it, but.
No, I think it just went to.
Yeah, that is just gone to
The
the,
button. Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
forgetting that you're not in that list.
Carrie, did you have something specific, or you just wanted to?
I just wanted to get started on some sort of planning so that we are ready to go for the 5 people that show up or the 50 people that show up. So I just didn't know what our game plan was, I hate to put it all on you, but you're usually our budget presenter. So is it gonna be a mini presentation of our budget? Is it going to be just a question and answer?
Yep, so I asked briefly last time, and I think the consensus was there should be some sort of presentation, but it should be fairly short, like 10 to 15 minutes, something like that. So,
Yeah.
so that's kind of what I was roughly planning. How long do we have the library? I don't know.
No, I look at the key during the day. And I have 6:30 to 9 to say.
Okay,
And then we did tell people we would have like a call-in Zoom type option.
yeah, so let's figure that out. But yeah, so I guess what I'm roughly planning is to, I'm sort of going to use this as a trial run for the slides. Especially since I may be passing them off to somebody this year. But, so a question I have for all of you, because you all sat through my spiels plenty of times at this point. I have tended in the past to throw in what I feel like is supporting information about, you know, where the district falls is in line with state averages for whether it be our tax rate or how much we pay our teachers or whatever. I also sometimes feel like that's not directly the issue at hand. So I'm looking for feedback, like how much of that stuff should I keep in there? How much of that stuff is getting across the point that I want? And that point, if it's not made clear, is like, yes, if some of these budget increases have been high, the asks have been high, but they're not out of line with everything else in the state. Like every district is having these problems, every district is making these asks. We're still pretty much at average for per pupil cost, and what we pay our teachers is like, we're not, the point of those slides is to show we're not out here blowing money. We're not spending like crazy. We're very much an average district when it comes to most of that stuff. But I don't know if that point is getting across. I don't know if that's a valuable point in the limited time we have. If we should focus more on like the current budget and the issues that we're facing. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think it should be stated. But it should be just simply stated at that point, I mean, not a whole part of the presentation. Because I believe, you know, the people are coming to get information and that they are aware. The people that are going to show up are going to be aware of the situation throughout the state concerning this. So I think it should be brief concerning, you know, about the situation that all districts are in pretty much. And then, you know, presenting the information. And I was even more to think, you know, we have to have something to hand out so people can look at it. And, you know, something like, right, you know, so like this handout right here that was given to the NBC, just a basic summary of what's going on. You know, the line numbers are in there, but you can actually see the changes from year to year, or from last year to this year, and where that money is going and the explanations for it. That'd be helpful. We can, you know, and that can be pretty much your presentation and write it down, and then the people can develop their questions from this. Hopefully.
Other comments, questions on, I mean, I can make this however you guys feel like it's most effective. I guess sort of looking at Ken, because you've been on the outside most recently, so.
Yeah, I agree with Kate. I think it needs to be stated and then move on.
Okay.
But I also would say, let's presume that there are going to be questions.
Right, sure.
That's an opportunity to dig in as well, to get back to it, right? So I'm get a specific question about why we're funding this line at this point. We have that explanation, and oh, by the way, this is where it puts us, right? It's in terms of the comparative with other districts. So it can kind of revert back to it. And that may be more effective than spending a lot of time, in one chunk.
Okay. And sort of what I'd like to do too, for everybody that's, I don't know if we're all planning on being there for both of them, but I would ask, bring a notepad or take notes. And specifically, if you hear a question from somebody in the public that you're like, I bet a lot of people have that question, like just jot it down, make a note, because that's something that then we can throw in for the next time around. And hopefully, as much as this is going to hopefully get more information out and allow people more opportunity and access to ask questions, it also gives us a little chance to sort of hone our messaging too, for February and March. So, okay, all right, I'll take those notes. I'll aim for ballpark of 15 minutes as far as like a presentation. I may take last year's slides and sort of condense a lot of that historical information into a slide or two instead of sort of really have like a slide per chart or whatever. And then, I will try to have that done. I hate making promises when I don't have stuff done because I always. I'll try to have it done a week ahead of time, so for the 21st. And send it to you guys then. So if you see stuff that you're like, nah, we don't need that or whatever, there's some time to make tweaks before that first meeting.
Who would you like there to support you and be able to help answer questions?
I mean, what do you all think? My first instinct was I don't want to put more on anybody's plate. So, the school board should be able to either handle most questions or say, hey, we will get you that answer and we'll make it public, we'll email, whatever. And then what I'm thinking is we've got 4 shots at this sort of, right? We've got 2 of these presentations, we've got the public hearing in February, and then we've got March meeting. So I also think any questions that come in that we may not be able to answer, the next time we can, pose those answers. If you want to be there, if Amber wants to, we would certainly welcome more eyes and more people that deal with it on a day-to-day basis and can answer things immediately for people. But, you guys all do a lot of evening meetings this time of year, and I don't want to, again, I want input from all of you as well, but my instinct is not to tell any of you that you need to be there.
I will be there. Amber has a conflict that she could probably work around if you'd like her to be there. If you don't think she's needed, then I'm something.
Okay, yeah, let's not have her move stuff if we can help it. I mean, if we do that first one and it's like, holy crap, we really need Amber here, then we'll invite her to the next.
Second one.
She can't, okay. Yeah, I think.
I want to make sure you have all the support. At that point, and the questions that would probably come up from public, I would think between all of us, we could answer.
Right. And I honestly, I hope, I want any questions that anybody wants to ask. But I hope that some people come with some I don't know if you call them philosophical, but nuts and bolts and numbers are great. And we can justify all of these things in the asks that we're making. But I hope that people will ask questions about the process and how the budget is built and how we make these decisions and things like that, because I think there needs to just be more, I guess, trust. And I think if people watched all of these meetings and saw all the presentations we make to NBC, at least they would know that we're dealing in good faith. And that's all that I really want. Everybody has to make their own financial decisions. And I know that these are big deals. I know that these tax increases are minimal, and families have to make their own decisions. I just want them to make those decisions knowing that the 5 of us sat here, not we get comments every year oh, you guys just spend whatever you want. That's clearly not the case. And that's part of the message that I hope the public can get from these sessions. It's this stuff is thoughtful by you guys and then by us. None of it is willy-nilly. None of it is exorbitant. So yeah, I hope it's not all just about, hey, what's line number? Why are you spending that $12? But yeah, if you can be there, that would be great. I think that's.
You can also ask Jess, because she does such a great job summarizing special ed.
Yeah, and judging by the past couple of years, that's been a topic. So if he's available.
I'll ask her. All right. So right now, I plan on just tonight.
Okay.
Andy, we're gonna have a online option thing. Do you want to do it on Zoom? I would create Zoom for your Zoom account and then are you gonna allow people who remote in to ask a question
So I guess how I would like to, and again, I'm not trying to take this over, so if this sounds bad, just tell me. What I'd like to do is whatever platform we use, if you've got a Zoom account we can use, that you can share, that's fantastic. If we want to use the school's WebEx and bring one of their laptops, I'm sure we can make that, whatever.
Who's thinking you wouldn't have anybody?
Well, you could, you all have an SAE 53 account, so you could set up a Google Meet under any of your SAE
true,
email
yeah.
addresses.
That's right.
And have open access to have as many people attend if there's a cap, if you use that.
Yeah.
I
that's a
just
good
think that we should, not like when we did WebEx. I think since we're offering to get as many people there, and I know you're gonna be presenting it, it's fine, to allow them to type a question, and then I don't mind reading it to you. I think we should answer those questions and allow those people
That's exactly what I was gonna say, is I prefer them to be typed in the chat.
Yeah.
Like, I don't wanna try to,
No,
mess with
yeah.
people's microphone problems and everything, but yeah, if we, I think my preference would be if somebody's in person asking a question, we take them first, but there's gonna be lulls, there's gonna, and even if, if they keep coming in online and we've got 10 people asking questions in public, and that line fizzles out, and we've got 15 questions sitting in the chat, we sit there and answer them. Yes, we can. Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, I forgot about have Gmail accounts.
So if you're gonna moderate it, if you wanna set up the Google Meet and send and invite me, then we can publish the link to the meeting. Okay. So that it's out there and I'm just.
And I think when you're posing this as a Google Meet, we may get inundated with questions too. We may not be able to answer everything.
Yeah.
So we may have to, put this like a disclaimer, put a disclaimer when we, post the meeting, put a disclaimer, we will do our best to answer all questions that come into the meeting, so.
I hope we have that.
Yes.
Me too.
But I'm just anticipating.
Yeah, and I'm sure there'll be duplicates too, right? So,
Right, yeah.
As you guys are sort of moderating that piece of it, like, we'll answer a question and you'll see that question 3 more times too, so.
And you can product questions.
I think that's fine too, Sandy. I think if people, I don't know if anybody's watching tonight, but yes, if you want to email questions, can we direct those to your email, Melanie, just so they're all in one place?
Yeah, that's fine.
So you can email Melanie questions ahead of time too, and we'll do our best to get to, I think the order of priority will be in person, in the chat, and then email the questions.
Yeah.
Just to keep things clean, but yeah, certainly.
Do you want us to do, I can ask Lexi to do a little flyer and have it move through it that kind of summarizes all of this. And then
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that'd be great. That would be fantastic. And then we'll need, I don't know, what do you think? If we could get like 100 of these, hopefully that will last us a few meetings, but can we get a bunch of these printed up?
Good handout, it touches on
Yeah.
Yeah.
a lot of different parts of it.
Cool. Anything else anybody can think about for logistics around Athens?
Thanks for entertaining that.
No, I'm glad we got a lot of that stuff cleared up. Anything else on that? And I think that finishes number 7. So we've got policies. We talked about some of these last time. Okay.
You want to take the new one first, Patty, or do you want us to go through what we have and then we can do the,
You guys can start now.
okay. Okay, so Melanie and I kind of went through and we reviewed majority.
Can I interrupt for 1
Yeah,
second?
go ahead.
I just looking at the agenda, does Edmund need to stay for non-public? So, and, we're just gonna talk about policy now.
We can do policies at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I do need a couple of them.
Yeah, well, I was just trying to be,
Yeah.
conscious of that.
Unless our adoring public is interested in the policy discussion. I don't want to.
No, there is one thing I'd like to suggest, Andy. You mentioned your inability to attend the school district meeting on March 8th, and that you might make a recording. If the meeting's gonna be held in the auditorium, that's probably fine. If it's gonna be held in the gym, nobody's gonna be able to hear it. The acoustics in the gym are horrible.
Yeah.
You can't even hear what's going on when people are at the microphone. So you might wanna make a decision of whether you wanna do a recording or somebody gets up and yells at the public, depending upon where that meeting is held.
Okay.
How you can determine that in advance is another question, but I'd be cautious
Okay.
about doing a recording.
At the very least, if we resort to a recording, I'll make sure there's captions in a way that we can display them large enough that people can actually read them. But I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so we'll move policies to after non-public then. We do have one more public comment section before non-public. So anybody wants to speak, just come on up to the mic.
You're definitely on policies, the policies are going on public.
No, we're just gonna move them to after non-public. boring, and after non-public, we can let our admins go home so they don't have to listen to it. Anything? All right.
I would like Dan to text me results of tonight's decisions, maybe? Could you do that?
I will do that.
Thank you. That's the one thing that matters. I'm gonna go home and make this.
Yeah.
I gotta do something for your kid.
Thanks, gentlemen. Have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're moving 8, we did 9, anything under 10?
Yes.
Just for informational, we did put the NBC questions that Carrie referred to in the drive, so that if you weren't at the NBC meeting or you haven't seen them, you can sort of get a flavor for the types of questions that were asked and see what the answers were, so I thought that would be helpful for you. And then I just want to remind everyone we need to pick a member of the board for the headmaster search. I thought of that before we leave tonight, because we're getting these going, and one of you should.
I'm assuming a bunch of that will be business hours?
Yes, or right after school.
I mean, I could probably do something.
Okay, so you might have Ken be the,
Well, my only question for Ken, or about Ken, is the same question I had about myself, is this gonna stretch over the election?
I don't think that's the intention.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that's why we did it early, and I think applications are for January 20th, so I can't see why we wouldn't be able to get
Okay.
What is the board seated?
after the March vote, so March.
We got the-
Pretty much, March 11th.
Yeah, they come to the next
They
meeting.
come to the very next day.
Yeah, typically, the moderator will give them the oath at the election, like, once the election's closed, if you're there.
Okay.
If you stay for the vote count, then he'll swear you in right there, and then, yeah, next meeting.
So there's no interruption.
Right.
I mean, I could, if for some reason it does carry over, I mean, I
You can jump in.
I'm hoping Ken's still here.
Yeah.
I would.
I think it will be wrapped up.
Yeah.
That's the intention.
Okay. Cool. Just wanna make sure. So, do we need to elect that, or is everybody okay with Ken?
No.
Taking that on? Good.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Fantastic. That's it for Ken? Okay, then the board has need to go into non-public session in accordance with New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3, Roman number 2, small letters A, B, and C tonight. A is the dismissal, promotion, compensation, or disciplining of an employee, or the investigation of any charge against him or her. B is the hiring of any person as a public employee. And C is matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the board. On a roll call vote to enter non-public 7:28, Melanie?
Yes.
Jean?
Yes.
Carrie?
Yes.
Ken?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. We'll give it a minute to stop the recording.
And much of what you said is what I said. But I came on board, and then I started looking, well, I've not started, I looked at it before, but I looked at the budget and just the way, and it's a system problem, the way the budget spits out of the machine. And it takes a lot of like lifting just to figure it out. So yeah, oh God, yeah. I mean, and then there's like, why are there so many lines of zeros? And it's just a historic kind of function,